starting with your feet just slightly wider than hip width apart, standing up really nice and tall, thinking about shoulders and hips being parallel, and just want you to transfer over to one side and lift one leg, and then transfer over to the other side and lift one leg. So we're just keeping the shoulders and hips square, apart from that little tip there. Hips level, sides of the waist at the same angle. Because we've got the feet quite wide, you have to fully transfer from one side to the other. Try and bring the knee up opposite your hip as we go. So out of our 10 things I do every day, this is standing on one leg, balancing on one leg. So we do it all the time, we do it all day, we just need to be, we want to be better at it. So just creating the good neural pathways. So this is relatively easy. Let's stay on one leg. Let's draw the knee up and pointing the foot, and then flex the foot and swing the leg forwards. And then I'm going to draw the knee forwards. In fact, let's do that a couple of times. So from the side, I'm lifting, flexing the foot and sweeping the leg forwards. Lifting, pointing the foot, flexing and sweeping forwards. So my standing leg is straight. And then same thing, so a few of those on this, staying on the same leg. Let's flex the foot and take the leg out to the side. So lifting and flexing and out to the side. Lifting out to the side. The tissue box of your torso is the same all the way through. Great, then we're going to take that leg to the back. So in order to take it to the back, there's a very slight pitch forwards. I'm exaggerating that a little bit, doesn't need to be quite that much. But just so that you don't end up overarching in your lower back, just take that weight forwards a little bit. Flexing and pointing the foot. So the standing leg should be feeling a nice bit of work now. Let's continue with that. We're going to take the leg in front, to the side, to the back and to the side. So we're lifting and flexing forwards. Let's add, if you would like, some hand twiddles at the same time. If you don't like, put your hands on your hips. So if you can, to the side, and then again, one more round, forwards, and lift. Change direction on those hands if you are doing that bit, if you're able to cope with all of these things going on all at the same time. One more out to the side. We're going to do one more round. We're going to finish with that leg at the back. Pointing to lift, flexing. Here we go, last one. All the way with the leg behind you. This time I'm going to point the foot. I'm going to slightly bend my standing leg. Taking my arms out to the side, palms are down. Now I'm going to turn those palms up. Just turn the palms, in fact rotate the arms as much as you can, all the way. Feel that nice work going on in the shoulders. Holding this position here. I'm just going to slightly change my position just so that you can see what's going on. So we're in this beautiful diagonal line from the crown of the head to that back foot. I'm going to hold my palms up. Really notice those shoulders drawing down. And then just to finish off, lifting and lowering that leg at the back. It's very strong on the standing leg. Lifting and lowering. Standing leg side is really working. Do a couple more when you would like to stop. Get those palms up to the sky, hand the ceiling and have a little rest. Good job. Okay, all on the other side. Oh, that really was quite strong on that leg. Okay, so we're lifting, pointing the foot, lifting the knee forwards, flexing the foot to swing the leg out. So if you're really, and just do some to the front, 4 or 5 to the front. If you're really worried about your balance, you can just leave your toes to touch the floor. But if you can, try and work through so that you're 100% on that one standing leg. Last one, forwards. And then we're taking the leg out to the side. So our goal here, there's a lot of things going on actually, trying to keep the hips still, Torso in the correct position, spine in the correct position, nice strong, straight standing leg. Working the ankle, working all the way through to the toes. Let's take that leg behind you, very slightly pitch forwards. If you've got a mirror in front of you, check that nothing is changing. It's actually quite nice to pop your hands on your torso, elbows out to the side, so you feel like you've fixed the body. Great, let's do the 3 rounds of staying on the same leg. We're going to go to the front, to the side, to the back, and side, and repeat. So we're going forwards, and lift, and side, and lift, to the back, and lift. Standing leg, beautifully straight, growing up through the crown of the head, to the side, to the back, and side. Last set, forwards, lift that knee to the side, lift the knee for the last time, pitch the leg behind you, pitch the weight slightly forwards, point that foot. That's my flex foot. I've slightly turned it out, but that should be nice and parallel. Pointed foot is away, and then bend that standing leg. Knees are going over the toes, hips and shoulders absolutely square, arms out to the side. Start with your palms down, and then we're rotating those palms up, and then the other way. I'm actually taking them up to the ceiling both times. I nearly said sky then. Been doing some garden Pilates, and I get very confused with whether I'm outdoors or indoors at the moment. So when you're going this way, thumbs are down and towards the wall behind you. Feels like the shoulders are rounding forwards a little bit, which they will be, but try not to let that happen too much. And then when you go the other way, which is the one that we really want, really draw those shoulders down in your back, as if you're putting them in your back pocket of your jeans. Let's hold the arms there. Let's hold those palms up, little fingers all the way up to the ceiling, pitching that weight slightly forwards. My standing leg's absolutely killing me. I'm just going to add a few raise and lowers of that back leg. Hopefully that's the only thing that's moving. This is strong. Getting the heart rate up a little bit. This is our warm up. Number 1 of 10 things to do every day. One leg balance. Ooh, and enough. Great, give those legs a bit of a shake. Okay, hopefully you've got some warm muscles around your buttocks and around your hips, because we're coming into number 2. Number 2 is our deep squats. So let's take the feet nice and wide, turn the legs out slightly. 2 minutes to and 2 minutes past the hour. Let's reach up to the ceiling, touch your shoulders, touch your shins, drop your bottom down, touch shoulders, ceiling, shoulders, shins, shoulders, ceiling, shoulders, shins. You have to be a little bit careful with this. So we're up to the ceiling. So the goal is, when you bend your knees, to make sure your knees go over your toes, but because we're looking for a deep squat, ultimately, get those hips down nice and low. Try and reach lower down your legs towards the floor if you can. Ideally, you want your back to be fairly upright. So what tends to happen when we first start this is people leave the hips all the way up there and they're thinking, oh, I can easily touch the floor, but look what's happened to the shape of your back. So a full deep squat is the functional movement that not all of us can do, especially not straight away when you first start. That's where we want to be, all the way down to the floor, with the back, to the floor with your hips, your bottom, with the back relatively in its natural curves. Now this today's reasonably comfortable for me. I've just dropped down as low as I can, and I'm just changing my weight from side to side, just warming up those hips a little bit. If that's not available to you, find something that you can just maybe sit down on. So I've just got this couple of blocks, and I'm going to go to there, and then maybe try and lift your bottom off, Sit down, the arms are really forwards to counterbalance, so I don't feel like I'm going to fall backwards. In the comfort of your own home, find a door, find a table leg that's not going to move when you hang on to it. With the door aspect, one hand on either side of the handles, and here I'm just going to take my feet quite wide and then let my bottom drop all the way to the floor. If I let go, I would fall backwards. But this actually feels nice and secure, and I can just move around there, be relaxed, and feel that I'm gradually getting into the position. Heels, calves, ankles is all part of the same thing. If you're having problems with this, and I've got really tight Achilles, so it doesn't come naturally to me. Some people can do this really easily, and it's not a problem. For most of us, there's usually a restriction somewhere, whether it's knees, hips, ankles, just because we don't do it. But trust me, if you do this every single day, if you try and do this every single day, it will get better, it will get easier, and it will make a world of difference to how you move for every day. So I've just unrolled my yoga mat. I've got a little bit of a cushion. You could, use a book. Usually if I've got my trainers on, then it's okay. So my heels are now quite comfortably touching the floor. But again, it's not the end of the world if your heels are slightly lifted and you're coming to this position. As long as the knees are okay, as long as they're not painful, don't work through pain, but there will be discomfort if those areas are tight. But that's what we want to try and work on. So number 2 of 10 things to do every day is your deep squats. Practice it. One more thing, I'm going to give you one more thing. I'm going to use my poof. So, if all of that I just showed you is too much, just come down to something that's like this and coming up again. Just get this movement in your muscle memory, making sure that you're in good alignment, the knees are going out of the toes. It's really important to push the knees out. Think little toe side of your feet. Think John Wayne, none of this, never the placing the hands on the legs. So that is your homework if you don't already do that. And if you do, I hope you're enjoying that and staying down there. Okay, we're going to come down to the floor, believe it or not, already for all fours, which is number 3 of 10 things to do every day. So number 3 of our 10 things to do every day. This is a fantastic just position to be in, to remind your spine how to be in the correct position, to brace your abdominals, to work the abdominal wall without being uncomfortable. So you have to be in the correct position. So hands underneath the shoulders, spread the fingers and the thumbs far apart, knees underneath the hips. From here, just be really nice and relaxed, but be in the correct position. Watch that the head is lifted up towards the ceiling, and just push your shins into the floor. And feel absolutely everything switching on, and then relax again. Push the shins into the floor. Count to 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that's the easiest version. Hopefully you notice some muscle activation there. Curl your toes under, lift those knees off just a tiny bit. Same thing. You're bracing in your abdominals. Nothing changes. Count down from 10. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That all should be relatively easy. Relax those toes again. Just take a release of one hand and the opposite knee. Just release off of the floor. So I'm basically relaxing my knee, slightly releasing the pressure on the opposite. Relaxing my knee, relaxing my elbow, slightly releasing the opposite knee, and then replacing. And then go to the other side. I don't want you to take a great big movement, because I want you to try, as you do this, and keep your body fairly still. So I don't want to see a great big shift, if I could see you obviously. I don't want to see a great big shift from side to side with the hips or the shoulders. I don't want to see you lifting the hip in order to release, just release the pressure. You don't even need to lift the hand up, you could just soften the elbow and feel that sort of crisscross action. This is why this is such an important movement. We work opposite arm and leg naturally. That's our coordinated movement, if you like. And we can, it's not that we can't work the other way, we can absolutely, but generally the most efficient way is to be opposite arm and leg. So now let's try going over to the same side, and this is slightly odd. You're going to transfer your weight all the way over onto the same side, hand and knee, and then rock over to the other side. This is a Garuda movement. It's called the elephant. And it's just quite interesting as far as balance goes. So as I just said, it's not that we can't do same side, hand and leg, just the brain has to work really hard to work out how to balance you there. Brilliant, let's come back to the centre. So we're going to go release opposite arm and leg, back to normal now, and touching the floor. Fingertips touching the toes, nice straight, fingertips touching the floor, nice straight leg at the back, toes also touching the floor. So Mondays I'm never very good, am I, on this, with my, what I'm talking about. So we're lifting the arm and the leg to the height of the body. You're going to bend the arm and the leg in. So we're bending at the knee, flexing the foot, so that leg's going up to the ceiling, and you're bending your other arm into a salute position. So I've got my elbow out to the side there. So I'm going to hold that a moment, push down on the shin that's in contact with the floor to stabilise yourself. Make sure you're lifting out of that hand that's on the floor, try not to lock the elbow out. And then 5 times, let's reach the arm forward, let's flex the foot behind you, and bend in again. 5, extend, 4, and 3, and 2, and 1, extend, touch the floor, come back in, swap sides straight away, here we go, opposite hand and foot, extending away, lift to the height of the body. Bending the arm into a salute, flexing that foot at the back, try not to have too much turnout. So keeping hips and shoulders absolutely square, we're extending. 5, and, oh, I'm struggling to balance on this side, 4, and 3, and 2, push that shin down into the floor, and 1 more, last one, extend, touch the floor, come back in, notice hopefully there's not too much of a shift, and have a little relaxed back. Great, so just taking the hips back on the heels, let's have the toes together, knees nice and wide, weight on your elbows, twiddle, hands, fingers, circle, make them go all just warm and a little bit uncomfortable there. Get the blood flow there, and at the same time you might notice I'm rocking from side to side in my hips. I'm going over my shin, over my knees, my hip joints, everything's getting sort of oiled and lubricated, and that's what we want for every day. That's what's going to help us do those full deep squats and just to keep everything active and mobile. Brilliant. Okay, so we're coming down onto our elbows. Elbows and legs out behind you. So number 4 of 10 things to do every day is just the Sphinx. So you're here and you're lifting up and you're trying to extend that upper back in the opposite direction to how we spend most of our day with it rounded and all forwards. So let's just start here. In fact, let's place our hands flat on the floor and feel like you're sliding your elbows back along the mat. And if you've got a yoga mat, it's quite nice because there's this bit of sort of stickiness to it, especially if you've got bare skin, and it feels like you're gripping, and you want to pull your chest through. For this movement, you're like a slug, and you're trying to slide along the floor. It's not the prettiest of analogies, I appreciate that. So just see if you can get a little bit of movement. There isn't loads, there absolutely isn't, but try and get that extra bit of upper back extension. So I'm applying the pressure, I'm holding it this time. So I was sort of relaxing and then pulling through, relaxing and pulling through. Now I'm just going to hold it. So sliding those elbows back, keeping the chin tucked in, keeping the back of the neck long. I can feel the muscles around my shoulder blades being activated and working. On the tummy front, pelvis front, draw your belly button towards your spine to protect that lower back. Don't feel that you're feeling compressed in your lower back. Good, and then lowering all the way down. So we're going to flex our feet. We're going to bring our heels together. Just watch me for a moment. Actually, when we get going, you're going to put one hand on top of the other, and you're going to put your forehead down. But you won't be able to see this for the moment. So we're just going to work the back line of the body, which again is really important. From here, squeezing my heels together, I'm actively pushing my pubic bone into the mat, and I'm going to use my buttocks and my hamstrings to lift my thighs off of the floor, and it's really quite strong. So I'm quite tight at the front of my hips, so as soon as I lie down in this position, my hips actually want, or as soon as I bend my legs in, actually my hips want to ping off of the floor. I'm trying to push them down. In fact, this is quite a good position for me. If you're tight in your hips as well, cup your hip bones with your hands and keep that pressure. So pubic bone and hip bones pushing down. There's no release when you lift or lower the legs. Keep those heels squeezing together. This is very strong. Brilliant. Okay, so I just realised you didn't put your head on your hands, but you hopefully so head on your hands, bending the legs in, take those squeezes if you haven't done any already. Try and squeeze those heels together. And then it's your choice, if you want to take the arms out to the side, keep the head just slightly lifted up, so keep the tip of the nose or the forehead parallel to the floor, back of head and neck is lifted. You're going to just hover the arms off of the floor, and at the same time lift the legs up, squeezing those heels together. And then lower arms, lower the head a little bit, but make sure you don't lift the chin. Just the tip of the nose touching the floor, and then lift. So we're taking both ends together at the same time. This is really quite strong. So upper back extension, arms out to the side, the back line of the body is working really hard. Lifting and lowering. Great, and relax there, fantastic. Good, that was number 4. I feel like I just want to take my hips back on my heels and have a little move around there. I always want to do this when I've been doing some of the upper back extension stuff especially. Maybe come up onto all fours and just take some spine circles as well. So hopefully if you are doing class either with me regularly or just these sort of bigger body movements, you're starting to learn to listen to your body, and just if you feel like you need to stretch and roll the shoulders, then do it. Absolutely, listen to your body, tune into it. So our next thing, number 5, halfway through our 10 things to do, which is quite handy because we're halfway through class, is seated rotation. So, sitting cross-legged if you can. If that doesn't work for you, for your knees, you can absolutely do this sitting on a chair. You can do it with what we call a long frog. So you're here, legs out in front of you. The most important part is that your sit bones are nice and equally weighted, and also your spine is in its natural curves. If you're back here and it's all feeling really uncomfortable, the last thing you want to be doing from this position, a really bad postural position, is to start to rotate, because that's going to be really bad for your back. So whatever position you're in, it's quite nice to sit on something like a yoga block as well, or a little like a firm cushion or something, just to give yourself a little bit of lift. If you're comfortable cross-legged, uncross them the way that you first cross them, and put them into your unnatural cross-legged position. Because again, our habits are to always go in the same positions. You want to try and just keep everything as mobile and have as much range of movement with everything all the time. In every position. So we're going to just take the opposite hand to the knee. It doesn't matter which way around. The spare hand, same side as that knee I've gone to, goes into the floor. In fact, I'm going to go slightly at an angle, into the floor behind you, and pushes down to lift you up so that your spine is as upright as possible. If you're seated in a high back chair, you can hang on to the back of the chair for this. And then use this hand and use the hand behind you to rotate over that and look over that shoulder. Be very aware that your sit bones are equally weighted. It's very easy to lean one way or the other. And if you can't go very far, that's absolutely fine. Just stay there, hold it, breathe, try and lengthen the spine. It will feel quite grippy in your hip flexors, especially if you're in a cross-legged position. Don't worry, perfectly normal. Opposite hand to the other knee. Place the hand behind you to help you sit tall. Rotate around. And breathe. Holding it there for a couple of big breaths in and out. I'm going to do my next two. I'm going to just change my position slightly. I'm going to lift this leg up. So I would naturally cross my legs this way. So I'm going to sort of repeat that position, and I'm just making sure I'm seated on both sit bones up as high as possible. Again, front leg, the lifted knee. I'm taking the opposite hand there to help pull towards that leg and hug that leg in a little bit. Other hand is behind me. I'm rotating around. And breathing. Great, coming back to the centre. In this different position with my leg, so we're just going to do 4 of these all together. You can change your leg positions or you can keep it exactly as you were. For this position, I've swapped my legs over this time. So other foot in front, other knee in front, lifting up really nice and tall, and then turning round. So towards the leg that's in front, that's your opposition. Think about those sit bones, might be tighter on the hips on this side. That might make a difference to how you're sitting, how your pelvis is positioned. That's the word I was looking for. Great, let's finish off with this is a classic Pilates exercise here. I'm going to go slightly that way. So again, this is probably the hardest position, to sit with your legs out really straight, feet and knees together. You can bend your legs here, but exactly the same as we just did. The spine needs to be in neutral, so the spine needs to be in its natural curves. Your sit bones need to be equally weighted. So if you've got good hamstring length, nice straight legs, really flex those feet. Even if you're bending the knees, flex the feet, pull the feet up towards you, toes up towards you. So the soles of your feet are nice and flat. We're going to place the hands on the chest. I'm going to do mine with straight legs. So I can't really move my arms much here. I can do this, but I want you to try not to move your arms at all. Hands on the chest, elbows stay the same. You rotate. And actually, I was going to say you rotate to the side. You don't rotate to the side at all. You only rotate to the corner. Because if you only rotate in your upper body, which is what we want you to do, you can only go to the corner. You can't go all the way way around to the side unless you cheat by bringing the elbows across and turning your head all the way around. And also what will end up happening, as I've exaggerated it here now, but if you try and go too far around, your pelvis will join in the rotation and you will absolutely end up with one foot in front of the other. So that's why I want the feet squeezed together, rotating. So do 6 of these, maybe 4 of these. It really is a small movement, it's quite frustrating, it's quite grippy in the hip flexors. Try and sit up nice and tall. And then we're going to make that just a bit more interesting. Arms out to the side, we're going to pivot 3 times, breath out, 3, 2, 1, come through the centre, breath in, breath out. Into the centre. And last one. And that's tough. Have a little slump and yeah, maybe a little relax of those hip flexors. So sitting back, which brings us perfectly into the next position. Leaning back but sitting nice and upright, so not collapsing here at all. And think of the straight line, the midline down through your legs, and you're going to open out one leg all the way to the side and bring it back together. What that was, bring it back together to join the other leg. And I'm keeping my leg on the floor. I'm keeping my hips still. I'm not allowing my pelvis to rotate or anything, and I'm resisting this movement out to the side. And then resisting bringing the leg back in again. It's like you're working through peanut butter. So we're using inside and outside thighs, which we don't tend to use these muscles very much in everyday life, but they're really important for the stability of the pelvis. We tend to spend a lot of time forwards and backwards working on that plane. We don't really go to the side much. About 10 of these, I think that's about right, and then swap sides. So make sure you haven't collapsed, lifting up, opening out. So try not to turn that leg out. Try not to turn it out or turn it in. So keep the top of your foot and your knee facing up to the ceiling. Notice for yourself, how does this second side feel in comparison to the first side? So for me, this is my tighter hip side, so it feels a little bit, yeah, I feel like I want to cheat and turn my leg out and then roll it back in, which again, it would be a valid thing to do, but for today, I'd like you to try and keep it really parallel. Make sure you're lifting and not collapsing in that upper body. Resist, work through peanut butter. Can you imagine trying to move your leg through peanut butter? Especially the crunchy type, it would be very, very awkward. Okay, good job. We are going to come down onto the floor and use, so this is actually number 6, believe it or not, but this action of engaging inside thighs. So in our regular Pilates class, when we're lying on our sides and we're lifting and lowering the legs, that's all of that work. That's when we cover that. So let's come down onto our backs and let's use this in conjunction with, what am I trying to say? Some abdominal work. So from your base position, so from sitting up nice and tall, round that spine, scoop that tummy in. All the way down to the floor. So your base position, think about the shape of your spine, allow everything to relax. Let's just start by bringing the feet and knees together. And actually, let's take the feet and knees together and then just take your heels out. So my toes aren't actually quite touching, they're almost touching. But I want you to feel the midline squeeze all the way up the centre of the body by squeezing your knees together. So we're going to, again, activate those inside thighs, which is what this is all about. You've rotated the thighs inwards, maybe take the legs away a little bit actually. Lengthen your feet away a little bit so you're not quite in the base position. So you've rotated the thigh bones inwards, you've opened up the sacroiliac joints, and you've gone a bit pigeon-toed with the legs. Brilliant. Let's place our hands at the back of the head. So interlace the fingers, fully support the head, elbows are forwards. Keep that squeeze going and then take some abdominal curls for me. So lifting and lowering. Elbows are lifting up to the ceiling. You're not just tucking your chin in and changing the shape of your neck. You're lifting the whole head and shoulders up. There's no change in that lower back shape. There's no change in your ribs, especially when you lower. Don't let them flare. Keep them drawn down all the way through. Try and keep that squeeze on the knees. There's another rhyme I'm on form tonight. Okay, we're going to bring those feet and knees together completely. And bring your feet in a little bit closer this time. So coming up with the head and shoulders to comfy position, but more so that you can sort of see what's going on. And if you've got a yoga mat, it'd be quite handy to use your yoga mat for the measurement of what we're about to do. So feet and knees are squeezing together, taking your midline squeeze. And then lengthen the leg that's closest to the camera away along the floor. Open it out to the side. Not too far, but keep your hips absolutely level, and then draw it back in to squeeze against the other leg. Again, no turnout, about 5 of these. Keeping that pelvis absolutely level. There's no rocking and rolling, there's no change in the shape of your lower back. You're working reasonably hard here, not too hard. One more. When you bring that leg back in, slide back in, try and get a little bit more lift and have a little lower, great, and then slide the other leg away and come up. So clearing the shoulder blades if you can, but you can also be in comfy position, opening out that other leg. Keeping the leg in contact with the floor, but your goal is to work those inside and outside thigh muscles, your adductors and your abductors, and keep the other leg still. It's very tempting for that knee that's bent to want to roll out. Push that leg down into the floor. Keep the pelvis still. Bringing that leg back in now as you come back in. Lift into a little bit more of an abdominal curl and lower. Great. Lift the, so we're going to repeat with the first leg. So I used the leg that was closest to the camera. So slide that leg along the floor again. Now this time lift and hold the other leg into a knee fold. So you haven't got that contact on the floor anymore. Coming up for your abdominal curls. See if you can keep those shoulder blades cleared. Opening and closing. Because you haven't got that measure, you might be able to go a little bit further across and past your midline. If you only want to go as far as the midline, that's absolutely fine. Really make sure that you don't overdo the side aspect of this, because it's going to distort your hips. Opening and closing, keeping the other leg still. I'm pointing both feet, it just feels like that's keeping everything in a better position for me. I'm going to bring that leg back in, I'm going to add a little bit more and then lower. Lifting one leg into a knee, the other leg into a knee fold, sliding the second leg away along the floor. Clearing those shoulder blades if you can. My abdominals are really starting to feel some work now. And hopefully your inside thighs will be a little bit as well. Opening and closing, keeping the leg that's in a knee fold in the air, keeping that still. Holding everything in place. How are those shoulder blades? Are they slightly lifted? Hopefully. Then you're working your abdominal wall. And we're going to bend both legs back in. Take a little extra lift. Woo, hand lower. Last one here, if you can. We're straight both legs, flexing the feet. And I'm coming up to my comfy position again. Elbows are forwards. I would like you to try this movement before we start to move the legs about. You're going to point your feet. Turn the legs out with pointed feet. Flex the feet, keeping them turned out. Bring them back to parallel. Point. Turn out. Flex. In, turn out, parallel. So 4 clear positions. Point, turn out, flex and parallel. Point, turn out, flex and parallel. Turning the legs out all the way from the hip socket. Let's reverse it. Flexing the feet to start with. Turn them out. Point them. Bring them back to parallel. Then flex them. Turn them out. Point them. Parallel and flex. Turn out. Point. Parallel and flex. One more. Turn out. Point. Parallel and flex. Turning out, holding them turned out and flexed. We're opening and closing now. So the goal here is to squeeze those heels together, opening and closing both legs equally, not too wide. I'm only going as wide as my yoga mat. That's where the yoga mat comes in as a good measure. Point the feet, stay and turn out. You're still trying to draw the heels together. Nothing has changed. You've just got pointed feet. Those toes don't go anywhere near each other. Clearing the shoulder blades if you can for the grand finale. 1 flex and 1 point. And 1 flex and 1 point. And flex and point. Still squeezing the heels together each time. And point. 2 more sets. Flex and point. Last set. Flex and point. And have a little collapse. Brilliant. Okay, we are bending the legs in. So that was number 6 of 10 things to do every day. Still got 4 to go. Wow. Okay, number 7 is our bridge. But let's come back to that legs extended away a little bit. This time I'd like you to, in fact, extend your legs away completely, straighten out your legs, bend your knees slightly, they're slightly apart, roll your knees in together, roll your toes in together, your big toes in together. So your heels are apart, knees are together. This is foundation training, supine, decompression. We're going to squeeze those knees together again. We're going to push the big toe joints together again. You're going to dig your heels into the floor and then try and drag your heels towards your butt. Again, we're switching on the back line of the body. Arms are just in a low V. Push the backs of your arms into the floor a little bit. We're working really hard, but if someone else was to look in at you, they probably wouldn't think that you were doing anything. But I don't know about you, but my inside thighs are quivering already. So I'm really trying to connect at the front of my body. Rib cage down to meet the hips. Spine is in its natural curves. Buttocks switched off completely. You absolutely don't need them for this. We're trying to switch them off by rotating inwards with those legs. Open up the collarbone. Keep the back of the head and neck nice and heavy. Dig those heels in. Pull your legs towards you. This should be hard work. You should be thinking, when is this going to end? I would really like to finish this class and go and have my tea. But I'm just going to do a little bit more if you can. Squeeze those inside thighs together. Squeeze the knees together. Rotate them in. Come on, a little tiny bit more. Let's take a big deep breath in. And a breath out. Keep those arms pushing down. Backs of the arms, triceps. Open up the collarbone. 2 more big breaths. Last one. And relax. Give those legs a bit of a shake. A little bit of a pummel into the floor. Okay, bending the legs in. Keep your feet quite close together. nice and parallel. Keep the feet close to your butt. So here's number 7. Here's our bridge. Straight bridge all the way up to the ceiling with those hips. Absolutely, now switching that butt on and then coming straight back down. No change in the shape of your spine. Just lifting the hips up into a beautiful straight line. Knees, hips, shoulders, rib cage drawn down. See if you can get those hips up a tiny bit higher. Relax and come straight back down. If this doesn't feel right for you today, the bridge is a great exercise, but you might feel like you want to do some more mobilizing movements. So you finish in the same position, but to get there and to return, you just articulate through the spine. That might be more suitable for you today. Listen to your body, do whatever feels right. So coming up to the top, either via a straight bridge or not. And now I just want you to try and squeeze those knees together again. This is quite nasty, I won't lie. Keep those hips up, try and squeeze those knees together, keep them squeezing together, and then pick the front of your feet up as well. Ooh yeah, where it's all going on now. Open up those shoulders a little bit. Lift the hips up a tiny bit higher if you can. And releasing, releasing, and I would suggest a reverse curl to come back down out of that. Instinctively, what do you want to do? Instinctively, I want to hug my knees in and just circle them around. Ooh, maybe have a little shake of the feet. Brilliant. We are coming back up into some lunges. I'm going to try and leave monitors where they are a little bit, yeah, because although we're taking lunges, it's a nice wide lunge. So, 1 foot forwards, 1 foot back, really nice and wide. Ideally, I'd like you to keep your spine upright, and then we're just bending the back knee, dropping down to the floor if you can. So the perfect lunge position would be from here. So the knee above the ankle, the other knee underneath the hip, curling the toes under, and then you're coming straight up from there. Fingertips to temples, maybe. Sometimes that helps to keep that spine nice and upright. So don't worry if you can't go all the way down to the floor, but try and just bend both knees equally. Keep that spine upright, hips and shoulders square to your front. So for me today, it's that end of my yoga mat. We're going to stay down. We're going to take a little pelvic tilt to really stretch that back. For me at the moment, my back leg, the front of the hip, or the leg that's furthest away from the camera, I should say. It's everyone's back leg. So try and tuck that pelvis under. Push your pubic bone forwards. You won't go very far, but boy, will you feel a stretch there. Maybe taking the same arm up to the ceiling and just trying to reach up, maybe look up a little bit, will really give you a wonderful stretch all down the front side of that body, your body even. This is number 8. This is our hip flexor stretches. Ooh, stepping out of that, give the legs a bit of a shake. Let's swap over. So nice wide position. Set yourself down here if that is possible for you. Use a wall, use a chair if you need to. Knee above the ankle, knee underneath the hip, 290 degrees. Don't be too much on a tightrope. I've practically got my feet are hip width apart. My mat seems to be stretching today. Fingertips to temples, bend all the way down if you can. Try and fully straighten those legs at the top. Try and be equally weighted on both feet. So we tend to want to pitch forwards. So the back leg doesn't really bend much. Keep the spine upright, dropping down. This is really strong work in itself. But again, although one of the 10 things to do that we're doing here is our hip flexor stretches, to be able to kneel down to the floor, to be able to do a good lunge is a great functional movement. Let's hold it halfway down, let's tuck that pelvis under, stretch the front of the hip. Stretching your hip flexors, where we spend way too much time sitting, everything gets really tight, and then just reaching the arms up to the ceiling. I'm just lifting a little bit more on that side that I'm stretching. And breathing, that's strong on the legs. Whew. Great. And standing, giving the legs a bit of a shake. Really good. Okay, I'm just going to move this one a little tiny bit so it's a bit more up like this here. Great. So 9 and 10. Shoulder rolls. Let's start with shoulder rolls. So this is where I usually start my classes for those of you that are regulars. You're probably thinking, how unusual was it today to do this towards the end? I thought it was quite nice actually. Have a bit of a change. So feet parallel, standing up tall, and then place the hands on the shoulders. So this is warming up for number 9, which is your double arm circles. But in order to be able to do the double arm circle effectively, you need to be able to move that rib cage around. So important. You can't just go straight into it. So lengthen the arm, take the whole thing all the way up and back. Allow your rib cage to move, allow it to go with it. You could test your amount of flexibility, mobility in the rib cage by just really connecting those ribs. You'll find that you won't really go very far. I prefer to let everything go a little bit. And also maybe just do a little bit of both. Connect the rib cage down. Keep the elbows soft, especially if that hurts your shoulder. If the whole thing with a lengthened arm hurts anywhere, come back to this one. If that hurts as well, come back to that one. Okay, here we go. Last one, number 10. 10 things to do every day. So we normally just put the head in the hands and we bring the elbows forwards and we just push the head into the hands. Let's try thinking of this in a slightly different way today. Push the base of your skull into the heels of your palms and sort of clamp there. So yes, I'm pushing my head back, I'm keeping the elbows forwards, but I'm also trying to sort of pull in and up with my heels of my palms. So I'm really lengthening the spine and it's actually really nice. I'm going to bring my feet completely together again and I'm going to squeeze from the outside in. So we've got that midline squeeze going on as well. It is all working. So inside thighs are feeling very activated, shall we say, but that's good. Pelvic floor switched on. My internal stabilizing muscles, around my pelvis, around my pubic bone, is already nicely switched on. Great. Just releasing there, 2, come 2. I'm going to kneel down for this one. Actually, I feel like kneeling down. I'm going to finish off here. So you could sit, you could stay standing, you could be kneeling as I am, you could kneel up. Most importantly, what I'd like you to do is just rest your hands on your shoulders and just the weight there. It just feels really nice. And all we're going to do is finish off with some neck stretches. Turning the head from side to side initially and then facing forwards, taking your ear towards your shoulder. What's great about having your hands in this position is that your shoulders are going to stay really still, but it's also the weight of your arms are going to help with the stretch because you're not going to cheat, you're not going to lean over. I'm just going to swap my arms over actually. You could do that or not, it's entirely up to you. And then I'm going to turn my head to the side and draw a semicircle. Another thing that's nice is the warmth in your hands, but also that connection from your brain. So I did a semicircle down towards the floor and then lifted at the other side. I'm going to take a semicircle up towards the ceiling and look down at my hand, at my shoulder, up towards the ceiling. So because my hands, I'm touching my own skin, my own body, suddenly my brain is very alert to what's going on in this shoulder girdle, and that's great. Helps to highlight our awareness. And then the very last thing, oh, I've never done this kneeling before, is just the upper body rolls. Couple in each direction. Feel like you're moving around that upper middle of your ribs, at the back, the front, the side. Let the head be quite free. It should feel quite nice. Whew. And well done. Good job. 10 things to do every day with a slightly different twist and in a slightly different order to how I normally do them. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.